So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Occupy Edmonton for organizing this important event, and thank you to Jay for moderating it. And thank you also for everyone coming on your Sunday afternoon and showing obviously a significant commitment to this topic. You've taken the time to dedicate yourself to this topic, which is impressive. I'm honored to be with you this afternoon. I'm also honored to be part of this distinguished panel, Kevin Taft and Shannon Bauer. They have extensive understanding and leadership in this area, and I'm happy to stand with you. So in my own way, I will do my best to contribute to the discourses this afternoon. As you heard in the introduction, I'm a social worker, and I just wanted to augment a little bit about what Jay said. Indeed, I do have a BA in political science, but I couldn't teach at the university with only that in social work. So I also have a bachelor's degree in social work and a master's degree in social work. So I just wanted to include that. And I also wanted to explain how I can teach at the University of Calgary and live in Edmonton. And that's because the University of Calgary is responsible for all the degree programs for social work in the province. And so they actually have a division here in Edmonton. So I just, go to close to the Safeway on 109th Street, the school's right there. So just to clear that up. My profession influences my perspective, as does my gender and my life experience. From the perspective of my profession, I see firsthand the suffering of vulnerable and marginalized Albertans. And I often see my clients as heroes. If I was in the same circumstances, would I be able to handle things as well? My honest and humble answer is often no. The barriers to some are enormous. Some barriers people are born with, like disabilities. Others come from family challenges, such as family violence, addiction issues. Others are discriminatory. Because I'm a woman, I make 68% of a man's earnings in Alberta. If I'm Indigenous, I'm less likely to get a good job due to discriminatory hiring practices. And if I'm a newcomer to Canada, my educational credentials may not be recognized, and thus I may have to work in low-wage jobs. As a social worker, I support individuals with these types of barriers, one by one, supporting them to access the support they need and helping them navigate the system. But there are larger systemic issues that the individual and I have little control over. The Occupy movement has magnificently brought into the public discourses the growing inequality and justice we're experiencing. Occupy's slogan, "We are the 99%, created an awareness of the changing policies that are creating an increasingly unequal society. Now we're not only talking about the challenges of those experiencing barriers to their success in society, but also to the vast majority of us, the 99%. That is why this topic that you have dedicated your Sunday afternoon to is so important. The face of our society is being dramatically altered to one that supports the privileged few and creates increasing challenges for the rest of us. And as Jay mentioned, along with Parkland Institute, and Diana Gibson was the lead author on it, we did create a social policy framework for Alberta, and we did an update of it that was released in the fall of 2012. It looks like this, and it's on both Parkland's website and also on the Alberta College of Social Workers website. And so I'm going to speak from this report today and share sort of, the state of affairs, I guess, here in Alberta. Certainly, the topic today, our tax system, is a key issue that we're facing a lot of concerns. So is my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I could, just while that's happening, I could tell a story. Can I tell a story? And as a social worker, we deal with the micro and the macro. We often talk about that. And the micro is we're working individually with people to help them overcome barriers to their operating in society, to healthy functioning. But we also want to look at the larger systems issues, because, you know, us all just working hard individually isn't enough. Isn't enough. So the way I like to talk about this is just, you know, it was probably a Sunday afternoon like this. It was in the summertime though. And I'm walking along the North Saskatchewan River. And it's a beautiful day, the birds are singing, and I'm just enjoying myself and really having a lovely stroll. And then all of a sudden I hear someone yelling, "Help, help, I'm drowning, help me." And so I right away go in and pull them out of the water. I managed to save them, and they're so grateful to me. They thank me profusely. They say, "I don't know what I would have done with you if you weren't here. Thank you so much." They seem to be okay. So I go, "Okay, well, I'm glad I was able to help too." So, and they go off on their way. Wow, that's a strange occurrence. So then I just start thinking, well, I'll just keep walking. You know, they're okay, everything's fine. So I'm walking along, and then not too far along, someone else yells out at me, "Help, help, I'm drowning. Someone save me, help." And so again, right away I pull them out. And again, they seem to be fine. And they're so thankful. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come along to save me. Thank you so much. And I just, that's so bizarre. 2 people in such a short time. And they thank me and they go off on their way, and, you know, I'm kind of dumbfounded. Wow, you know, like this. We can remember 2 people have been saved now. So we're walking along the North Saskatchewan River, and then a 3rd person is yelling at me, "Help, help, I'm drowning." But I don't go in and get them. You know what I do? I go upstream and see who's thrown them in. And of course I do both, don't I? I do the micro and the macro, and sort of as my profession talks about it. You know, we don't ignore the person who's suffering over here. Of course, we support them and we pull them out. But if we are just sort of good little boys and girls and work diligently helping each person, an individual at a time, you know, we could be here forever. We need to have a healthy system that supports all people. And then, of course, there's less people who end up in the river. Are we having any luck?
And the title is, again? Great. Oops.
Yeah, so that's just the cover of our social policy framework, so please go ahead. So, like Kevin said, this is I'm in agreement with all of his presentations, so we'll just quickly go through this. We have lots of money. We have, you know, there's no shortage of money. We're very wealthy in Alberta. And this just shows, you know, a significant growth in our GDP. So that's just, we can go to the next one. You know, I'm going to need a little bit of light just for my notes.
Sure.
So, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So this slide looks at the gap between the median and mean income, and it's a measure of inequality in Alberta. And you can see that back in 1995 there was a 16% difference between the mean and the median, and then in 2009 it's increased to 21%. So it's just a measure of inequality, and our report is called it is about focusing on inequality, fairness and justice for all. So a lot of the indicators we're looking at are inequality. So that's just the first example of that. Next one. And this again looks at the impact of the recession in 2008 and then our recovery in 2009 and as we moved into that, and how depending on the income level you were at, it's explained the deciles, so the lowest decile up to the highest decile, and it's telling you the difference it made in your income over the recession. And so as you can see, maybe you can't, it's kind of small, the top, the lowest income took a hit of minus 19 for their income. It went down. And then as you go up the deciles, the last 3 or so just negligibly changed. So the recession, you know, disproportionately affected people in the lower income strata. That's what we're just trying to show there. Next one. And then this is just another look at inequality. So 2009, these are stats from the bottom 50% of income earners have 13% of the total income in Alberta, and the top 50% have 87. Just another indicator of inequality. Next one. And then this is a pie, maybe it's a pizza pie, but so this is again the 10 decile divisions, and just showing you that the lowest decile has 1.7%, and the highest holds 28%. Again, another inequality measure. Go ahead. And the Gini coefficient, this is a sort of an international measure for inequality with the zero, with the measure of 0 means there's complete equality, and a measure of 1 means there's radical inequality. And you can see that for Alberta it's going up, which means that inequality is increasing, which is consistent with the previous slides that I've shown. So go ahead. And again, this is median income top and bottom, 10% of Alberta households in constant dollars. And so again, it's just showing that inequality is again growing in Alberta. Just another way to graph that. Next one. Okay, now this is another thing that Occupy, of course, has been so, has had really broadened our discourses so significantly with that top 1%. And here we're looking at the top 1% share of pre-tax income for Alberta and Canada. So back in 1982, the blue is Canada and the red is Alberta. And you can see that the share of the income has grown dramatically from 82 to 2009, and Alberta has the most, polarized of any province. Right? There's more. The money is pooled more in that top 1%. You can see we're way above the Canadian average. Okay, next one. Okay, and so this is a fun one. This is the threshold for entering the top 1% and the average for the top 1%. So for Alberta, again, Alberta's the threshold to be in the top 1% in Alberta of income earners. You have to make $273,000, and the average for those people of that 1% is $672,000. But Canada's threshold, overall to enter the top 1%, is $196,500, and the average of that top 1% is $422,400. So you can see Alberta, it's more pronounced. And so to be in that top 1%, perhaps some of you are thinking in your head, am I in that group? I know that as a social worker, I'm certainly far from it, but that's the reality. So the next one? And this, of course, makes it even more extreme and kind of fits with your title if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. So this is median incomes of Alberta CEOs. And so I guess it's not really very easy for you guys to see this. It's too bad. But first of all, this almost negligible little line right there is the median income for all Albertans, and that's just over $68,000. And then the next line, the blue one, is the median income for CEOs, and that's $2,473,439. And then the red one is the top 5 CEOs. Their median income is $11,084,123. So that's a, pardon?
Just getting by.
Just getting by. So someone's got the money. And then the next one is talking about, okay, so now we're going back to, we're looking at this is kind of fits with some of what Kevin was talking about. Like these are welfare income, so income support as a percentage of the market basket measure, which is like a poverty measure that we use sometimes. And So you can see Alberta is the line, the lower line. It is significantly lower than the average across Canada. So these are income support rates for people who are on income support. And so despite Alberta's high cost of living and tremendous wealth, we have oftentimes the lowest welfare rates of any province in Canada. So the money isn't going to the people. Next one. And then this, besides just the income inequality, we also have social inequality. Income, it's connected, right? And one of the things that we talk about in our report, and because we're talking from a social work perspective, we're often serving people who are working more than one job, long hours, doing their best to make it with their families, but are still significantly struggling. And this chart is just comparing OECD countries and then hours of work. And Canada is one of the top 4 countries of the number of hours we work each week, each year. And so we're one of the hardest working countries in the world. And what does it mean when we have these long hours? Oftentimes we're able to contribute less to family time, to our communities, to dealing with issues that may come up with our kids, things like that. And so there's a social cost to that, and that's increasing in Alberta. The next one. Okay, and so this one's the average total leisure time. So this is kind of just the opposite end, like how much leisure time, and this is comparing Canada, the provinces in Canada. And so you can see Alberta is the second red line, like not the top one, but the bottom one there. And so that shows you that Albertans work, in one of the hardest working countries in the world. They're one of the hardest working provinces. We have very little leisure time, So we're not, if we have not a lot of leisure time, then we're not really contributing as much as we could to our families, and that creates all sorts of social ills. Next one. And then we again are the second red line. And although we're not the lowest, we're the second from the lowest. And this is about our sense of belonging to community. So Albertans are one of the lowest ratings in terms of connection to the community for the provinces. And I know that I spoke to a panel some time ago on the minimum wage review when they did that, and I remember talking about this. I remember one of the Conservative MLAs was just kind of outraged that I dare say this, because he said a lot of people come up to his town hall meetings and he can't understand why people aren't. But of course he's not understanding that, like, who's not at that meeting, and all the barriers people have to being connected. So sometimes, even though the information's there, people will dismiss it. 5 minutes, okay. Okay, the next one. Okay, so that was just sort of a few slides to help you look at sort of the social costs of how hard we're working in Alberta and the challenges that we face. This is looking at, of course, Kevin talked about it, the flat tax. Alberta is the only jurisdiction in Canada that has a flat tax rate, so it doesn't matter whether you make 30,000 or 11 million, you're paying that same rate. And so it's not a progressive taxation system, and that's one significant way the government could have more fair taxes in this province. Next one. And perhaps some of you have, well, you can't see, there's it's not possible to see, but there's a little bit of a wider bar that's negligible, but you can't see it on that one. But this actually is a graph from the government's own website, and they're using this as Alberta's low tax rates are selling feature, right? We won't want to come to Alberta because you don't have to pay very much in taxes. And it's actually $10.7 billion less than the closest other province in terms of what taxes are collected. So we have a tremendous amount of room to move. And why does the government, okay, so we can still have the lowest tax jurisdiction with $5 billion, but why do we have to go all the way to 10.7? So, I mean, it's just, we're not overtaxed in Alberta, and it's just, something to keep in mind when we're talking about fair taxes. Okay? Okay, and this, Kevin did this one too. So this just talks to you about corporate profit, the top line, so the corporate profits have gone up, but the corporate taxes have flatlined despite. So it just, again, shows you that we're not, the people of Alberta aren't having any kind of benefit really from all the corporate profits, and we really should be taxing them at a more fair rate. And then the next one. That's it. Okay, so this is, Kevin showed this also in different ways, but this is focused on social spending. And that the line down, this we talked about before, is of course Ralph Klein's legacy. And so we're not out of control in terms of spending, and actually social services has never recovered from the Klein cuts, and these are the most vulnerable and marginalized people. And that's a significant concern to me as a social worker, and just to me as a citizen of Alberta and caring about a healthy and strong society. Thank you. So all of these slides in much more detail and better explanation than I just gave are in our report, so please feel free to go to our website and or the Parklands website to get more information. And I guess I just want to say that having a progressive taxation system would create a more equality in Alberta. We have many ways to create a more just and equitable society, but fair taxation is one important place to start. And I commend you all for coming today to look at that. And I'm under time even?
Yeah,
you gave me extra.
I'll give you a minute because you have to talk. Oh, you're under time.
I'm under time.